Founder Wisdom Pod with none other than Guillermo Acuña. He is a full stack handyman at Koywe, aka founder at Koywe. Quite an interesting guy, I must say. He's from Chile, so I stayed in Chile for quite some time in Concon, near where Guillermo was probably staying and working. I think it was in, what's it called again? Valparaiso or?
Viña,
yeah.
Valparaiso, Santiago.
Yeah, beautiful place. I mean, yeah, that's like near the water. Santiago is the city. It's a valley. I've never been there. Well, I arrived there, I guess, but it's just a beautiful place. And he has quite the eclectic background. He started a couple of fintechs, has been obsessed with that, has faced hard challenges. Actually, Koywe means a tree in Patagonia that survives really harsh weather. I like that. Guillermo, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about what you're up to nowadays.
Yeah, so I'm an engineer from Chile. I was born and raised in Santiago. I went to university in Santiago as well, and I always liked technology. I learned how to code when I was 10 years old, building a web page, a Dragon Ball Z web page. And I always saw it stupidly as a hobby, not as a business opportunity. So when I went to university, I wanted to be like a CFO or something like that. And I took some finance classes. And my first job was at an investment bank at the trade desk. And I felt like I was wasting my talents as an engineer. And like, I decided to leave, work there for a year and then travel the world. But a friend called me from the government and he said, okay, come and work to foster entrepreneurship and innovation in Chile. So I went to work for the government, and that's when I got introduced to the startup world. We helped start the Startup Chile program in Chile that attracted founders to work in Chile. And I got tired of bureaucracy working for the government and joined some friends to start Cumplo, peer-to-peer lending platform that still processes small business loans in a marketplace. The company has over 11 years old and has processed over $1.5 billion in loans in Chile, Mexico, Peru, and maybe soon in the US. But after 9 years of building that, we had some cool adventures. The police, the FBI in Chile, the regulator decided that we were illegal, even though it was perfectly legal according to the Code of Commerce from Chile. They presented a complaint, and the Chilean FBI went to our offices, to our co-working space, to see what we were doing. Of course, we cleared everything later, but it was like we had in total like $1,000 in revenues, 3 months of life. And the banks were going after us because we found out from the regulators that the bank had said, okay, stop them. So we were making something right, making banks uncomfortable, this little startup. But it was challenging, to say the least, to have the police come to your offices and interrogate us. And after 9 years of building that, I brought it to Mexico, and I found myself during the pandemic. I had left a team in charge in Mexico. After leaving Chile, the team didn't need me in Chile. And I found myself living in the south of Chile by a lake during the pandemic and thinking, okay, this is the perfect time to try something new. I'm not needed anymore, and I can start something that feels more like my own. And I started pivoting some ideas with a friend, a high school friend. Well, school, like primary school, high school. We met when we were 5 years old, so over 30 years ago. And we started talking like, what could we do now that I left Cumplo? He had left his previous company. He had an exit. And we started thinking, okay, why don't we work on something related to crypto and climate change? Let's see how we can change the incentives around that. Tested some ideas, but we realized that there was a big onboarding problem in Latin America, especially. We would ask our friends, okay, go and buy this carbon offset on our website, and they would say, yeah, I want to do it. How do I do it? You have to go to your exchange, take out your Ether, send it to your MetaMask wallet, then take it to Polygon bridge them to Polygon, and then go to SushiSwap to exchange them for something else, and then go to our website and buy the offset. And they were like, no, you know what? Let me just transfer the money to your account and you send it. And then we realized that there was a need to build that infrastructure to receive local payments in local fiat, local currencies, and help with the onboarding of crypto. And always with a real use case mindset. How do we use this to power real use cases and real businesses? And today we have a business. It's been 8 months with customers. We are profitable, and we have done, in July, we did like 13,000 transactions, and most of them are just like enabling traditional financial use cases. Nothing like, no overpriced JPEGs or things like that. No price speculation, just people sending money to other countries or investing their money in stock or ETFs. That's a brief intro, Guillermo, in a nutshell.
It's a hell of a story, the FBI part. And I mean, for people, 9 years in the startup world is the equivalent of 90 years or 900 years in the real world. So stress was an understatement for sure. And yeah, it's kind of disturbing. It's not the first story that I hear like that in Chile. Whatever happens at the government level, I know that there's been political upheaval in the last couple of years. We know that U.S. Intervene, I believe, in the Pinochet regime and so forth. So things are still not stable, but you participated in the Startup Chile program, which is quite successful by any means. You feel that these tensions at the higher level could potentially corrupt the startup ecosystem in Chile?
No, I don't think so. Like, the corruption is low compared to other countries in Latin America. There is some upheavals, like you say, like there are some people are trying to revolutionize what's happening. Like, people complain that Chile is not very equal, according to the Gini coefficient, for example. But things are like relatively comparing Chile to other countries in Latin America, we're doing very well. It could be better. There's always ways that things could be better, but I think it's going well.
I can feel your reality, like it really gave a huge blow to yourself. We identify ourselves as founders and entrepreneurs. You had to take up a while. I've been in these spots myself, like by a lake and meditating and thinking about life and what's next. Tell us about that decision. How did you get through kind of seeing a part of you die as a founder, like psychologically? How did you grow out from that?
Yeah, I think there were, of course, there's always like the narrative is not as simple as you make it sound, but my dad had passed away the year before in 2019, unexpectedly, and I was living in Mexico at the moment. That was like a little shocking, and it rocked my world. Like my dad was very healthy. He died actually while running in the mountains. So he was exercising while he had a heart attack. So like it was an earthquake for my world vision, like worldview. And then the pandemic hit, and I was started to think like, okay, this is the perfect moment to do a change. Like, I felt like I had put myself inside a cage and I needed to spread my wings. And it was a self-imposed cage. No one had locked me in there. I had done it by myself. And it was very liberating to open the lock and just be free.
Right. The product, the idea in itself, I mean, it's just ridiculous. All the transfers and the currency exchange and the yadas. It was also my experience with crypto that the product is still not there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of scam in that industry because it's money related. I'm still quite bullish on blockchain. What you're building is kind of APIs as a service, kind of. Why LATAM only? Like, what is the specific problem that is LATAM specific in that case?
Yeah, I don't think it's specific to Latam, but we are entrepreneurs from Latin America, and we have done businesses in many countries across Latin America. So we know this is not something that's very hard to do in one country, but doing it in 4 countries or 6 countries or 8 countries at the same time in Latin America, they look similar, but the financial infrastructure is different, rules and regulations are different, payment methods are different, and we want to focus on one region first, build a network effects, and then maybe if everything goes well, start looking at other regions that look similar, like Southeast Asia or places like that, that also have the same challenges that Latin America faces.
How much do you charge per API calls, and how big can this business scale? Like, and what is your average transaction per customer, like per month? Because yeah, if it's per API call, we can talk about MRR really, or maybe we can tell us a bit more about the stats here.
Yeah, so we last month we did 13,000 transactions. We charge either a fixed fee or a percentage of the transaction. And our business model is very similar to a payment method because our customers have to integrate our APIs, and there's a long conversion process. But once the customer is converted and integrated, chances of losing that customer are very low because they already invested the effort and the time and the money to integrate your APIs. And that's what we do, like a transaction fee, or if they want help from us to build something more complicated, like a specialized front end or special API, we charge a fee for the custom endpoint.
Right. How much, well, not how much, but what do you do to get more clients through the door? Because in LATAM, my experience has been that everyone says yes to a meeting, but
Yes.
it's very hard for them to commit to buying. So how do you go with scaling that?
So it's a good question. I think that it depends on the country. Again, in Chile, if people say I'm interested, they are really interested and they are going to buy. If they say yes, they're going to buy it. But in Mexico, if a yes means no. And that's like the spectrum you have of countries in between. Some are more straightforward, others are more like indirect, and you have to invite them for lunch or some mezcales or whatever. So far, it's been 8 months with customers, and we've been lucky that they somehow find out about us, and they have a problem, and we have the solution. So it's easy to sell them because they are looking for us. And now we're starting to test some ideas on how to reach more customers. We're testing some AI services that personalize the messages and like look for potential customers on the public databases. We hired someone from the industry with I forgot the name, with customers with his own portfolio of customers. And that's how we're starting to look for customers. But I agree. The interesting thing is that some of our customers don't need to be Latin American. They can be in other countries and wanting to come to Latin America.
Right. When's the next round of funding and how much are you seeking for?
I don't know. Right now we're profitable, so in theory we have an infinite runway. And the question is, do we want to maximize the profits or do we want to maximize growth? And that's something we're figuring out now. Because maximizing growth would mean to raise a round, but also like doubling the bet and increasing the risk and the chances of failure. And we're older, we're going to be 40 soon in 2 years. And we want to balance, do we make something that's profitable and that can scale for many years? Or we want to build something that can be, do an IPO in 5 years, but that's very hard. Like, how many people have done it in Latin America? Not that many. So that's the bet we have to choose. Do we go for the safe, like the milking cow, or do we go for a unicorn?
Can you go bootstrap and still go unicorn?
Yeah, I think so. It takes longer time.
Or is it just about betting in the right slots?
Yeah, I think it's about betting, and like it's a good question because the how do you compete with the big companies that are doing payment methods today, like dLocal or Kushki, that are already unicorns, and going like having like a branch of crypto wouldn't be so hard for them. So that's the race you would have to go into. Do you want to build something that's profitable, or do you want to go and race with those guys? And to race with those guys, you need more money in the bank account.
I agree with that, because the counterpoint would be that like when you inject like rocket fuel into something that's not a rocket, you just get, and then it
Yeah,
crashes to the ground. Injecting that rocket fuel can really stress out people as well. It can hinder their decision. Let's do everything quicker and on a bigger scale. And then all you need is a series of failure to bring you down to the ground, like probably 8 out of 10 startups out there.
yeah,
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, we can bootstrap and still go unicorn. Now, does that mean going IPO? I think it's like the changing technologies that we're gonna see as well in the next few years. A lot of people say that the next unicorns, some next billion-dollar company, they're gonna be three co-founders and an army of bots, right? An army of GPTs.
yeah,
Do you believe in that vision? Do you think that's possible?
yeah. In that regard, I think it's wiser to have like a goal, a more abstract goal than like I don't want to be a unicorn. I want to be the most productive company in the world per person. And how do you do that? With all the AI tools that are coming up. I think that's a more important goal for me personally than building a unicorn. Like, how do we become the most productive company or the most efficient company per person in the world? For example, building a unicorn with 10 people, I don't know, or 15. That's a more entertaining challenge than raising lots of millions of dollars and trying to be like burn them up and trying to compete with some big people.
And how does one do that? Because I can remember listening to some podcasts saying that, oh, this and that business was built like with 2 or 3 employees, or like very few employees. One of them was FTX, right?
Yeah,
Apart from being a scam, I think FTS and crypto, just skyrocketed from people, or a generation of people wanting something new, wanting to participate in this new economy. So that was FTX. It wasn't like necessarily bots. There's certainly other companies that were built on the back of bots, but how would you do that in your situation with Koywe? What kind of system could you build as a CEO to make sure that your time output relents and gives them and maximizes the energy output at the other end?
yeah, it's a good question. I think for us, the answer is an ongoing process. My main tasks nowadays are more operational and coding. So I'm the CTPO of the company, CPTO, Chief Product and Technology, and I'm introducing tools to the team, to the sales team, like how to make them more productive instead of writing emails by hand. That's like the low hanging fruit. Like, but then starting with the basics and introducing the tools to the team so everyone can be creative and like come up with things that they could use AI for. For developers, it's like running tests automatically. I don't code anymore without asking GPT to write the first draft. I don't write a blog post without GPT writing like a first draft, and I just complete it and add my style. And that's like the starting point. If you're not testing those things to find how to work with them, you're gonna be like someone is gonna do it better and they're gonna beat you. So it's testing, experimenting, and doing things that make sense for you.
How did you get into YC?
We applied like for the summer of 22, that batch, and we didn't even get invited to an interview because it was an idea that we didn't have very clear what we wanted to do. And then the second time we applied, I just filled the application by myself. My co-founder didn't even know. I asked him like, complete your part and let me know when it's over so I can submit the application. But the second time we had everything so much clearer that it took me, I don't know, an hour to complete everything. And it was a lot more concise and focused. And I explained. So we applied before with this idea that changed. We discovered this problem that needed to be solved. And this is what we're doing. And we're going to do it with or without YC. And then we got invited to an interview, which was coincidentally on the same day that FTX crashed. So we had the interview with YC and we were like, are they going to accept us? Like crypto is crashing all over. And well, they did. And we were one of the oldest of the batch. They're all younger entrepreneurs. But it was like going to a boot camp before, like a professional tennis player goes through a boot camp to get back in shape to go back to the circuit. It was like that, like seeing these young kids with all the energy but not much experience, and we were thinking we can beat them. Like we can build something better, and that was very good and refreshing, and just being exposed to a network and the resources was great.
Do you feel that age sometimes, thinking that you're 38 can bring you back? Because I started feeling old at like 22, I started like getting in business at that time. It's like, shit, I'm old now. Don't you think this mindset kind of brings you back sometimes?
I don't know. Like I have fun. I've always felt younger than I am. And as long as you're having fun, like you shouldn't feel old. Like that's my view at least. Like if I feel old, then it means I'm not having fun.
Right. No, well, I'm still a kid in many sense. I love playing and imagining and creating stuff and being artistic. So yeah, I fully embrace that in me. I don't think I'll be that different at 60 years old. I still will be that young heart. So I think that's the importance right there. Last question, what's ahead of you for this year? Like, what are your priorities today, this week, and this month?
Today is revamping the documentation for APIs. For a company that's mostly infrastructure, the documentation is a part of your product, just as important as how you're coding it. How do you explain it to the people who are using it is very important. So I'm reading everything very detailed, writing what needs to be written. And ideally, I'm going to have an AI tool in the future that I can give it the whole repo and I ask it like write the documentation, but it's still not there yet. But I use it to translate it to English or Spanish or whatever. If I'm writing in English, I ask it to translate it to Spanish. And if I'm writing in Spanish, it translates to English. That's the priority this week. Onboarding more customers. The next month is deciding, do we double the bets or do we build something that's profitable in the long term? And in the next year is building the vision that we decide and have the most productive company per person in the world.
Love it, dude. Where can people find out more about you?
About me, there's a website, acuna.me, acuna.me. And there you can find all my email, my LinkedIn, my Twitter, everything. And to know more about Koywe, you can go to koywe.com, Koy.